All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Midwestern Career College Campus Connections. We are recording as usual at our downtown location at 203 North LaSalle on a beautiful now summer day. It's finally getting warm out here. As always, you can find us on your favorite streaming site, and you can follow us or contact us at podcast@mcccollege.edu, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. As always, our guests are great, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Monica Loayza. How are you, Monica?
Hi, Gio. I'm doing great.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's fantastic to have you. I remember you were the first person I met when I was being interviewed and then eventually hired at Midwestern Career College. So you're the first face I remember seeing, because you at the time you were working as administrative assistant at our Wagger location.
That's correct.
And now, years later, now you're the career services coordinator, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
How's that going?
Great. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. It's been great. It's been 3 years working with Midwestern Career College, and it's been a great transition since I started, and then now that I get to work focus with students and continue helping them getting a job and coach them for those next career goals. I'm happy to be part of that impact in their lives.
Yeah, I think you found yourself a little bit swimming on your own, because the person you were working with, who was the director of the career services, eventually moved on. How was that after moving from one department, moving to another department, and then finding yourself by yourself?
Yeah, definitely brought a lot of challenges, but at the same time growth. And I have nothing to say but thank you to everyone who always trained me here and prepare for, connect with our community, the students, and the college himself. I think big opportunities come with big challenges, so definitely I had to assume part of those, and it was necessary, I think, to be fully submerged in the department, since I started actually, part-time with them, supporting the department, but then I fully transitioned into a career service coordination in 2022. So it's been great growing in the department and just see the evolution of our students in different campuses. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and you're definitely very well qualified for the position, as we will speak throughout the podcast. Talk a little bit about what Career Services does for not only our current students, but our alumni.
Of course. Well, currently the Career Services Department will support our students with all their skills and resume building and finding that job. Towards the end of their program, they have to have that opportunity. They have to phase that network and start working. So my job is to train them and give them all the resources and tools for them to phase that part of their lives. We can also meet with them early on to discuss those career goals and, map out their trajectory to get that job at the end. During that process, we offer also workshops, search tools, and provide them mock job interviews. It's a variety of resources for them to utilize and, become self-confident and secure about the program and skills they acquire here, and at the same time, leverage that network that is so important nowadays. So the main focus is that, and to sustain that job over time as well. So we help them to build their personal references, their LinkedIn profiles. We have LinkedIn headshots. We have career fairs, employer visits, and at the same time, we create this employer revenue and connection partnership with among the healthcare and business partners here in the Chicago and other states.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings growth and a high name for our graduates. I recall having a good comments about our grads with different facilities, and they always come to us to request more of our alumni to fill those positions And the big motivation, is to help people healthcare and then just project that career for them.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of students understand the importance of not only the education that they're getting, but being prepared for a job interview. A lot of students think, oh, once I graduate, I'll just get a job.
Right.
But there are steps you need to take. You need to be prepared. And I found that at smaller institutions you can get that help,
Hmm.
maybe because it's a smaller institution and you're a little bit more aware of what resources are available to you than a larger institution where information just kind of gets lost and students actually have to seek it out.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that the evolution through generations for, searching a job has evolved positively. But I think the main point for them is to be self confident and then trust their abilities. Academically, we provide good skills, soft skills. Each program works really hard in the curricula to give them those tools. But at the end of the day, with the experience I have, interviewing people throughout whole my career, I've noticed that the self confidence is a big role that plays in your job interviews as well as your performance during your job. So I always recommend them to find their strengths, their motivation, their passion
Hmm.
in life, because at the end of the day, that is going to reflect your career and it's going to talk highly about the person you are. Um, when people choose their motivation, their passion, I think and I see it that you put the effort naturally and it's a genuine connection that at the end of the day, the employers like that. They're gonna find you a person who really is engaged with the job, but at the same time who's passionate about it. I cannot stress enough to my students and in general people of recruiter that that connection, that first rapport that you establish with the interviewer makes a huge difference among other candidates. You can bring a lot of experience in the field and skills, software and everything, but if you don't have that interaction one on one, it's pretty hard to become that attractive candidate that you
Hmm.
can fulfill the position with. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that it's important for students to understand when they are applying for employment is that you need to know who the employer is. You
Correct.
need to research who that employer is,
Hmm.
because eventually they're going to ask you, what do you know about us? Employers don't want people just applying because it's a job.
Right.
They want to understand why you want to work for them.
Right.
And some of the things that we do that you have done is brought in employers to speak with students.
Yes.
And then we did a career fair, which is also very successful, where students can get to know who the employers are.
Correct. And it's part of the networking, I believe, when they make and do the research of the company, they can bring that in their interview. So that will show that they're really interested in the position. And you can make questions during your interview too. That demonstrates more interest in the position. Why is that so important? Employers want to see if you're a sustainable candidate over time. Because, turnover and looking for talent, it requires time and money, and companies want to make sure that it's worth it, the investment. So you want to be part of that revenue, that part of creating and the opportunity to work. So I believe definitely when they see one on one with the employers, they know they're real. They know they're looking for people with talent, and they also everyone remarks the human connection that they're looking for. That person who is going to be eager to be trained, to learn, to accommodate with the policy of the company based on the research you've done. In the interview, you can mention it, and you also see if it's a good match for you.
Hmm.
Granted, not all employers are a great match for people, and vice versa. So you have to find that good match and be part of that company and see also your next career, your next goals, right? Your professional development and the growth you're going to have as a person as well. All that part of the professionalism that we talk in our workshops
Hmm.
is part of that impact that you do in your interview as well.
And that has shown pretty much in how our, like you mentioned before, that some of the employers seek out our
Hmm.
students, and that's part of the preparation that they get coming to Midwestern Career College. Some of the preparation that you go through with them, and it's important for them to understand that they have an opportunity if they come here.
Yes.
What normally is the percentage of students that get jobs coming out of once they get their certificate or their degree?
Well, that's a great question. We do our best for reaching our benchmarks that are required, but we exceed those benchmarks. So I would say we have over 70 and 80% of grads that are currently working in their fields. My job is to make sure that they are actually working in the field, and at the same time, from all the class who graduate, the 70% minimum needs to be working. But we reach around 80, 90%, 100%, especially our electroneurodiagnostic program. That program brings 100 of the grads placed in the field. Granted, also that we look for people that are actively searching and updating their resumes, and
Mhm.
that's part of the job for them. But like definitely 17 over percent that we get people hired.
That's wonderful. And like I said, lots of resources available for our students,
Hmm.
not only for them to seek out, but we actually are proactive in bringing those resources to them, which again makes a difference when you're at a small institution than if you were at a larger institution where you're a number a lot of the
Right,
times.
right.
Now, obviously, it wasn't easy for you to get to where you were at because you started as an international student.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're originally from Peru, correct?
Yes, I was born in the second biggest city in Peru. The name is Arequipa. It's a beautiful city. It's surrounded by mountains. We are located in the south of Peru, and the Andes chain cross all over the city, the department. And I'm going to say, yes, we're very proud of our land. We love our food like every other Peruvian.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people from my city, we recognize our volcanoes and, the traditions behind.
Mm-hmm.
So we all have, I believe, this fire spirit to conquer our goals and then just make things happen. And absolutely miss home sometimes, but
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
for sure.
What was it like growing up in Peru in the middle of the mountain ranges?
It's interesting how you start valuing that once you're
Once you're
out.
no longer there.
Yes, because once you're there, probably you take for granted certain activities that
Of
you wish
course.
you
Yeah.
would have done. For instance, we have the volcanoes that you can climb them, but
Mm-hmm.
I've never done it. So as soon as I get the chance to visit again, I will definitely want to do it. But overall, it's a tradition city, it's a tradition country, and I'm grateful to my parents, to my education, everyone who brought that value and make and help me to be the person I am
Mm-hmm.
today. So it was great growing up there. I have all my infants, my childhood from my when I was a teenager, and everything there just played in a great moment. I cannot stress enough how great was growing up there. And of course, the food I always emphasize being a
Mm-hmm.
Peruvian is we're very proud of our food. And I think we also bring the sense of community and family through our food because, we are traditional people and we like to welcome everyone and we like that warm and, that I think it's a high characteristic among all Hispanic community, I would say.
Yeah, I remember when I moved down to Colorado, and obviously in the West, you have the Rocky Mountains,
Hmm.
and it was just like a completely different world. Gone. I mean, obviously, I grew up in Chicago, and
Right.
here the mountains are the skyscrapers. But when you're looking at the mountains, obviously, I also grew up in Guatemala, where we have volcanoes.
Right.
That part is doesn't really compare to seeing high rises because
True.
it's not the same beauty,
And that's not the same. And fortunately, the weather's cold
is it?
in my city.
Okay.
Maybe not as cold in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely. I can, it builds a different sense, but also at the same, I'm familiar with.
Is it above sea level? Is it a
It
high
is
altitude?
above. Yes,
Oh, okay.
we are above 12,000 feet above.
Really?
Yes, it's pretty high.
Okay.
It's pretty
Yeah,
high.
similar to Denver then?
Similar.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember having that conversation. So I've
Yeah.
never been to Denver, but I'm pretty sure it's a high, it's a dry heat,
Mm-hmm.
and the cold can penetrate your bones too
Yeah.
when it's like,
Yeah.
and it snows in the mountains. So you're right. The highlands are like beautiful to watch.
So how was that decision to say, I want to study internationally, I want to try something else internationally? How did you make that decision?
So, well, back in the day, my first experience was going to France out of an exchange student program that my high school offered. And I was 16 at the time, so I was pretty young going outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just had the chance to study there for a semester in the summer for us, winter for them. And I just realized how much I like to be, discovering new cultures and definitely traveling. And I just thought, well, there's more than my little city actually to discover. And then one of my passions is also learning languages. So at the time, I knew already English, but French was a big part of that moment. And then years passed, but I've always had in mind that I wanted to live abroad. It was something that, you connect with your inner self, and then you just say, okay, this is one of my dreams, and I don't know how to make it happen, but I'm going to make it happen. So I only knew Europe at that moment, and years later, I always was curious to come to the U.S. In that moment, I always thought, oh, it's a great country for like a lot of things happen here to discover and shopping and things like they were like really curious for. But I've never gotten to really understand or be fully submerged in the culture. Even though I have family here too. That we normally talk with them and hear the stories of their life here. But then I said, okay, I was working in a mining company at that moment, and I was working with people with basically I was bilingual there too, English, some French, and Spanish. So I said, I really like to work in an environment where I can use my languages, and it makes me happy, and I'm always challenged in that regard. So when I'm done with that job, I decided to come to the U.S. for a break, and then learn English, maybe become more fluent in it. And the school I decided to come was located in Chicago. That was in 2016. At that point, I didn't know anything about Chicago. I just knew it's a big city, jazz known and arts, but I came with no expectations. And when I came and I first arrived, I'm like, wow, this city is amazing. It has it all. I did not expect to see the lake that big that looks like an ocean, to be honest. And I've always wanted to live near the water.
The water.
And then the people so friendly. And then definitely I was enjoying that little adventure. I only was here for a short time in that moment, but the city conquered my heart so bad that I really wanted it to come back. So I said, I have to be here. Something about the city that it's calling me, that it's, when you feel that what you want to be there, I think you just have to go for it. And that's the same with the jobs too. If you really have that feeling and you really see yourself growing, you have to be part of it. There's no way to look back and then say, why didn't do it? So that was a fire in me for 4 years later. At that moment, I was already a student here. So before my student visa was over, I said, well, might as well make my dream again come true. And then I'm just going to enroll in another program and then just come back to the US. And so I did. So doing some research, I said, well, maybe I should do it English as well. For another period, because at that moment I did not know anything about associate programs or further education in the U.S. till I come to Chicago again and then meet one of the counselors at Midwestern Career College. And I knew Midwestern offers the ESL programs for English And he said, well, your English is pretty good. Maybe you want to consider an associate program. And he explained with a very detailed the breakthrough of the program. And I decided to join the business program
Mm-hmm.
and marketing program. In that moment in Peru, I started thinking about starting business before psychology. And then, you know, this is funny, but years later I did the psychology, but now I'm doing business too.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, I mean, why not? It looks like a perfect fit. This was January 2020, a very hard year for everyone for sure. And I was so excited. I had the chance to enroll right away. I did, I passed my exams, everything. So it was the first time to accomplish not only coming back to Chicago, it was also accomplish a degree from the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Gio, if you have a degree in the U.S., it's a high outstanding in your resume for any country.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the work experience in the U.S. as well. So I said, wow, I'm actually starting already to map out what it can be a great dream for me. Um, and that's why Midwestern comes in a very important role because they not only provide me the knowledge of, the program and the academic role as a business person, also gave me the great chance to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was the perfect fit. I was completely ready to be trained from zero because I think when you move somewhere else, you have to come with that mindset that you probably not going to start with your profession, but you have to be open to all the opportunities you have. And that's why I'm so grateful with this all experience. I have nothing to words of thank to everyone here
Mm-hmm.
and every person that has been part of my life to this journey. So I definitely had the big shot that you look for it and you take it. And yeah, you have to come and you have to pursue those dreams. Did I have struggles? Of course, like any other student. International students may relate with this. I think every day is a struggle. Every day is
Mm-hmm.
a take of, from language barrier. You have to adapt into the culture. And this is the most thing that I like about when I move out of my comfort zone. You get to know yourself better
Yeah.
and discover passions that you didn't know you have, skills that you didn't know you have, and overcoming those challenges day
Mm-hmm.
by day also, help your character and build your personality. So,
Right.
yeah, it's been a great journey so far. And all what I've learned in the past, my background as a psychologist, recruiter, HR person, and train their people, I'm using it now too with my
Of
students.
course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You mentioned that you needed to start from zero, which I think it's common and a little heartbreaking because, like I said, you have a lot of experience in Peru
Yes,
because you finished your degree in psychology
correct.
and then went on to work for international companies
Yep.
from Peru, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think every opportunity in life, it's a good learning for you. And this is what I remark to the future grads too. Do not expect to have the perfect job at the beginning. It's just a matter of learning and
Mm-hmm.
just be ready there to be trained because you don't know what life can take you or you don't know where you ended up going. I did not expect to be living in Chicago
Mm-hmm.
and having a great time of my life and working for an American company, which I've had in the past. And I've always identified with that life, with that work culture. I really like it, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a good fit for me.
Yeah.
That's why I stress enough to my students make sure it's a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
And the people I worked with in the past were so nice to me and opened the doors to me at all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I came with that mindset, knowing that here, of course, there's people that will give you that opportunity, and then you have to be grateful for it.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for all the people that I met in Midwestern Career College, and they helped me to become and then just be in the position that I am right now.
Yeah. How did and I mentioned in the past that I like psychology a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh, yeah.
How did you decide that psychology was something that you wanted to do? Obviously, studying college,
Right.
and then how you used it once you graduated.
Psychology, what I remember being in high school, it was my first class of psychology when I was 15, probably. The teacher made it sound so great. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I hit, I want to be a psychologist. I definitely have other options too, but I don't know. It was something in me that I like to hear people and like help them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started my studies in psychology, I just knew, yeah, this is for me. I enjoy my classes. It was a hard training for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I had to graduate. My university is one of the tops of the south of Peru, and it's really demanding, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to be on top of the
Right.
academics. I was a good student too, all my life, so I'm grateful for having those skills. But as you mentioned, I think that's the passion that moves me to pursue and continue the career. In psychology, you have the opportunity to help so many people in different fields. I personally did not choose the education at all. It was my last option, to be honest. I started as an HR person, human
Okay.
resources.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, it is that connection with the other where you get to help them, but they also give you a feedback and you also
Yeah.
grow. Being a psychologist, you need to be a humble person too,
Mm-hmm.
and recognize that the most powerful word and tool you have is your word.
Mm-hmm.
We can impact so much with words. We can destroy a person or we can lift them up.
Yeah.
So we have that opportunity to that person is open an internal world,
Right.
and we are blessed to connect with that person. We're blessed to guide them, and it's a big responsibility as well.
Of course. Yeah.
So nowadays with my students, I feel the same, that great responsibility that I have the opportunity to let them
Yeah.
know and tell them what to do with their jobs, with their future careers, and that's my responsibility too, to make them succeed for sure. So it's a big responsibility.
Yeah. In here in the U.S., everybody is part of when you go to a major university. Um, some of the requirements are that you take various subjects. One of those subjects is psychology.
Right.
I remember taking my first psychology class. I think I was at Southern Illinois University. And I had this instructor that I just did not like. I liked the topic of psychology. The psychology subject wasn't the issue. It was the instructor who was the
Right.
issue. And the professor kept referencing a sitcom, which was it's called Seinfeld. I don't know if you heard of it.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And Seinfeld just happened to be one of my favorite
Oh,
sitcoms.
got
And
it.
I absolutely hated that he was referencing the show. and I stopped going to the class because I just could not take it. I don't think I think the professor knew that I didn't like him,
Right.
and I passed the class, but I didn't pass it. I just passed it. But it wasn't after uh, I left. I think I was already in my master's program where I realized the importance of psychology.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, in psychology, you can tear someone down or you
Oh,
can
yeah.
bring them up.
Yep.
And because I studied business in my master's program, and I'm huge on management and leadership,
Mhm.
that's when I started to get into psychology, because it's all about, when you're managing people, it's all about psychology.
Yep.
And if you don't understand what that is or how to use that towards your advantage as a manager, that's why there's a lot of people that say you don't leave companies, you leave bad bosses or bad managers.
Correct.
That's exactly the reason why. Now, you decided as part of your program, you were going to do a study
Mhm.
on breast cancer and how that impacts
Mm.
women, correct?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, in Peru, to be licensed in psychology, you need to do a thesis of investigation, and you need to present that in a jury, and that's how you get your license. And
Mm-hmm.
let's say from to do the practice down there.
Yeah.
I was curious. I've always had a special, particular interest in the clinical field in psychology. For those who are psychologists, will know that the clinical, it's a very broad field where you get
Yeah.
to explore different cases, and there's a different spectrum of the mind and disorders that we can classify them.
Mm-hmm.
My particular interest was with patients with cancer, their struggle with breast cancer. And I remember that it took me most like a year get the thesis and do the presentation and everything. And you mentioned something very important, that you need to know the people and you can tear them up or you just can't lift them up. I believe in psychology, no matter the field you are, that's your biggest challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Working with the breast cancer patients that I had the opportunity, I saw that
Mm-hmm.
because I had to work with several, like 80 plus women. That was the sample
Yeah.
of my thesis. Every single one of them remember the doctor who was with them walking through the disease,
Right.
and every single person in their environment who make an impact in their lives, for bad, for good, or for bad.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, these are women who were, this was a few years ago, where fully mastectomy was a technique to, um, be over with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So as a feminine, those are a mutilation of your body. So the levels of self-esteem and self-image corporeal, it was so affected.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the thesis about. And it turned out to be a great study. And at the same time, I saw how women overcame this disease.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer is a lethal disease. So, and you have to see the statistics is growing. And I can not only wait for more people to be supportive of this field because it's needed. We call
Right.
it the field is a psycho-oncology field.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically are trained to work with patients with cancer and with the family.
Yeah.
Sometimes cancer, it's an interesting disease. It works a lot with the stress environment.
Mm-hmm.
And as it's a fast reproduction of cells, when you just give love to that person and this whole family support, the cells stop to reproduce.
Right.
There's studies behind it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say be aware and conscious of how much stress will impact your life, and if it's worth it to high up those levels of anxiety, or just take care of your routine, your food, your diet, exercise. Those are the factors that are going to diminish the options to have cancer.
Yeah.
So it was a great investigation job. And yeah, definitely you get to be the scientist collecting the data and then just helping the people at the same time, my patients. You give them tools how to overcome that situation, work with the medicines as well, get trained with the disease, impact in your body and your mind. And psychology has this particular sense where you cannot prescribe like a medicine, right? Because we're talking with your psyche, your mind, your thoughts, your emotions. They don't have medicine for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the work creates, neuro connections and therapy. So you have to be a conscious person, responsible, like it, and care for the own well-being and the other person's well-being, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, unfortunately, cancer is a terrible, terrible disease.
It is.
Something that my family, as I mentioned to you, has a lot of, unfortunately, experience with.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely lots of love and support, not only for everyone who has to have that battle, because it's not an easy battle.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody copes differently, and I think what the best thing you can do for someone is just be there for them.
Mm-hmm.
Have that support. One of the things that I do is just give people space, because only the people that are going through it know what they need. You can't assume or think that you know what they're going through.
That's true.
And the best thing you can do is just give them space, and if they need you, they will come, and just show that support for them. Like I said, unfortunately, I've had, the mother of my children. I have 2 cousins that have battled cancer. I have lots of family friends who battled cancer. My grandmother.
Wow.
So unfortunately, cancer has touched my family more than I think any of us thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, my interest started because of that in psychology, peaked even more because, as you talked about, the levels of depression that comes with it,
Yeah, stress,
right,
cortisol.
stress and levels of depression. So that's something that I've always been interested in learning a lot about, and obviously because the field of psychology is wide ranging.
Hmm.
I have a lot of interest in mob mentality as well as with all
Right,
the protests going on and how that
right.
develops and gets out of hand pretty quickly. And from being in business and management a lot, industrial psychology is something that really interests me quite a bit. So there's a lot of topics.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of topics, and if you are interested, I would just say pursue that dream.
Yeah,
It's never late to study, to be trained in those things that you are passionate and you are interested in. And yeah, industrial psychology and organizational psychology. It's pretty much the
mm-hmm.
field I
Yeah,
started with, and you get to work with people as well. I mean, you the impact you bring into companies, and um, leverage their community and the work environment. It's huge impact
right.
on a human person, and it's related to stress levels as well. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah, they're all. It's we are a connection. We're connected with everything. We're unity.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Yep.
You talked a lot about your love to travel,
Oh yes.
learn cultures, music.
Oh yes.
Um, what are some of your most amazing places you've traveled to?
Well, I've been a very a traveler a fair amount, I would say. My grandpa used to say from all my grandchildren, "You are the most adventurous of all," and that's true. I've been to Australia.
Oh wow.
I've been to several states here in the U.S.:
Mm-hmm.
New York, Florida, California, Michigan, Wisconsin. Um, I've been to France, and definitely have on my bucket list a couple other European destinations. And you know, I've been to the Caribbean islands
Oh
too
nice.
for a while. So yeah, I love traveling. You're right, and music. It's one of my biggest passions as well. So hopefully, those next trips are going to happen in the next, I would say, next term or next
Mm-hmm.
middle term. Yeah, we'll
Yeah, we
see.
talked a little bit about music as well. Any concerts you're going up to? We talked a little bit about some concerts coming
Oh,
up.
oh yes. I'm going to Summerfest in Wisconsin.
Okay.
I'm a fan of the Goo Goo Dolls.
Oh,
I'm going to Def Leppard and Metallica. They're coming to Chicago.
oh, nice.
I have tickets for Pink and I have tickets for J Lo.
Wait, is that canceled?
I think so. I think I read something about it. So
I
hopefully.
think that one's canceled.
Oh
So
wow,
too bad
that's
for
a
J Lo.
bummer. Oh no, yeah. And that's what I like about Chicago. There's so many concerts,
Yeah.
festivals. Last Saturday, I was at an 80s festival, rock music
Okay.
from the oldies, the
Mm-hmm.
80s.
Yeah.
Wow, I had a great time. That was in Old Town, and this is the time to go to the concerts and festivals. So yeah.
Controversial time for fests here in Chicago. Riot
For sure.
Fest has to move or decided to move their location.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. It was
That's a
just
shame.
announced
Oh,
yesterday.
oh, you're going?
No, I wanted to go last year, but I didn't end up going.
Me too. I want to go last year, but I did not
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
There's so much stuff to do.
It is true. I mean, big fan of Chicago here, from sports to art, museums,
Yeah.
jazz, blues. I mean, there's so much and so many activities to do. I cannot be happier living here, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's important, for people to. There are two different things. There's a touristy side that
Yeah.
I think as Chicagoans we still do because there's so much to do,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's real life as well with traffic and the daily
yeah.
grind of whether you take traffic or public transportation, which also takes a long time.
Right.
What is your message as someone who went through the process of being an international student, having to get visas, and now working professionally in the U.S.? What is your message to someone who wants to try their luck at that?
I like that. Definitely, I would say to keep doing it. If you have that dream and if you see yourself living in the U.S. and First of all, I would say do research so you can understand what are the challenges you will face,
Mm-hmm.
but be open minded as well.
Yep.
Um, One of the things I like about that experience is that the more open you come with your mind open and ready to experience everything, the better you're going to succeed. I'm not saying that you're not going to have struggles. You will, but I would say is your tenacity, your patience, and just get things done little by little. If you struggle with the visa, just make sure you have good assessment and good information on what are the next steps for
Mm-hmm.
you in whatever the home countries you come from and the rules there. um, Come here, always respect the people, the society, the rules. Be highly adaptable into a new culture. Keep in mind you're going to face culture barriers and language barriers, but that's part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And do not be afraid to speak up if you have to, and be proud of the roots that you bring, because at the end of the day, you are going to be like an ambassador of your own country, right?
Right.
And you're going to have the opportunity to shine, and at the same time to acquire a lot of new experiences that might be so rich and unique for people that did not
Mm-hmm.
have that chance.
Right.
So just do it, and then don't be afraid. If you have to struggle with things, you just keep going. Do not stop. That would be my best advice.
Yeah. Great advice.
Thanks.
So, as we finish up a wonderful conversation,
Yeah.
how can our students reach you? Where can they find you?
Of course. So they can reach out to me at career services at mccollege.edu. My extension would be 312 um, 236 9000, extension 1014. And they can always see me in the office at La Salle campus, Evergreen Park, and Naperville. And if they need any assistance with the resumes, mock job interviews, and discuss career goals, you can always book an appointment with me too, and then we'll have a one-on-one training.
And students should take advantage of that, as we talked about.
Oh, yes.
You're a wonderful resource.
For sure. And stay tuned, because we always launch in our social media a little reels of tips on how to get a job interview, how to prepare for one, and how to keep your high performance at work.
And they can find it on YouTube, correct? Or on our LinkedIn page?
It's on our platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and for sure YouTube. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So wonderful. It's been great to have you. Great conversation. Hope our listeners got to learn who you are, what you do. And like I said, you're a wonderful resource with lots of knowledge. And I think we're very happy to have you,
Thank you.
in the current role. So want to
Thank you.
remind the listeners to follow us on the different streaming sites, whatever you like. YouTube, obviously, is where we have our videos, and our audio files are on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Apple Music. So contact us at podcast@mcccollege.edu, and we look forward to talking to you on the next time.
Thank you, Gio, and join
Thank you,
MCC.
Monica. Take care.
Take care. Bye.